It, of course, is one of a president's gravest obligations, contacting the families of fallen service members. But for President Trump, that sober responsibility was the source of an apparent swipe at his predecessors. Defending his delay in responding to recent Army Green Beret deaths in Niger, President Trump deflected before we pressed him on it.
On the steps of the Rose Garden, President Trump responding to questions about why he had not commented yet on the deaths of 4 U.S. soldiers in Niger nearly 2 weeks ago.
I actually wrote letters individually to the soldiers we're talking about, and they're going to be going out.
The president saying he would call the families this week, adding this claim that his predecessors did not call families of fallen service members.
If you look at President Obama and other presidents, most of them didn't make calls. A lot of them didn't make calls. I like to call when it's appropriate, when I think I'm able to do it.
NBC News pressing him on that.
Earlier you said that President Obama never called the families of fallen soldiers. How can you make that claim?
I don't know if he did. No.
Well, in fact,
I was told that he didn't often, and a lot of presidents don't. They write letters.
You were told that based on what, Mr. President?
I do, excuse me, Peter. I do a combination of both. Sometimes it's a very difficult thing to do, but I do a combination of both. President Obama, I think, probably did sometimes, and maybe sometimes he didn't. I don't know. That's what I was told.
The president's assertion igniting a firestorm of criticism. Overnight, former Attorney General Eric Holder tweeting, "Stop the damn lying. You're the president." I went to Dover Air Force Base with 44 and saw him comfort the families of both the fallen military and DEA. President Obama's former deputy chief of staff immediately blasting President Trump on Twitter, tearing into his claim as an expletive lie. A spokesperson for former President George W. Bush says he wrote all the families of the fallen during his presidency and called or met with hundreds, if not thousands. One woman whose brother was killed in Iraq says, quote, "President Bush listened while I screamed at him and then held me as I sobbed." Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders later defending President Trump, saying he wasn't criticizing his predecessors, but, quote, stating a fact, adding, "Individuals claiming former presidents, such as their bosses, called each family of the fallen are mistaken."
Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said, like past presidents, President Trump has called, sent a letter, or met with the families of the fallen since taking office. As for those Green Berets killed in Niger, now 13 days ago, I asked the White House again this morning whether the president's letters have now been mailed or calls to those families made, but so far no new update. Matt, Savannah.
All right, Peter Alexander at the White House. Peter, thank you very much.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.